While tensions between Israel and Hamas escalating once again, Israel overnight firing more airstrikes at reported militant targets in Gaza, hitting the Strip just before dawn. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowing to, quote, continue to strike at the targets of terrorism, fighting back. This as President Biden approves $735 million worth of weapons to Israel. He is voicing support for Israel's right to, quote, defend itself against indiscriminate rocket attacks, while also encouraging a ceasefire. Here's White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki yesterday.
It's not our role to assess or analyze the politics on the ground in Israel. What our role is to play be as constructive as possible in de-escalating the violence, bringing an end to the conflict. Our focus, our goal, every single action we take, every statement we make is with the objective of reducing the violence and bringing an end to the conflict on the ground.
This ongoing violence has killed more than 200 people since around Gaza since just last week. Joining me right now is Fox News senior strategic analyst and retired four-star general Jack Keane. General, always wonderful to have you. Thanks very much for being here. How did this all start once again? In the last 4 years, we were not seeing these pictures at all. We were not seeing this kind of outbreak in shooting and rockets. We had the Abraham Accords that President Trump brokered along with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. So what's the trigger for this most recent violence?
You know, well, there's always internal issues that drive stress and conflict inside of Israel, that's to be sure. And some of this has to deal with housing in East Jerusalem, the riots that took place around the mosque. But the real issue, I think, has to do with the Biden administration. I strongly suspect, because Iran is running this proxy war, as you know, I mean, all the rockets and missiles that the two terrorist organizations inside of Gaza are firing come from Iran, as all the missiles that Hezbollah has also come from Iran. And just last week, Iran's missiles were firing into Saudi Arabia at the same time this proxy war is taking place in Israel. But I believe Iran triggered this with their proxies, because when the Biden administration decided to fund the Palestinians, I think that was a clear sign that maybe the Biden administration is on the same path as Obama was back in 2008. And I also believe that when the United States froze the military aid to the Arabs, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and UAE, that was another telltale sign that shift was taking place with this administration and their eagerness to get back into the nuclear deal. But the good thing that's come out of this is that this administration has bipartisan support for Israel defending itself. There's no condemnation of Israel taking place as there was during the Obama administration. And the response from the Arabs is muted, and the response from the international community is nothing by comparison to what took place in 2014, when there was universal condemnation against Israel. So I think the Iranians have somewhat miscalculated. The second thing is I want our audience to really understand about the civilian casualties in Gaza, and certainly it's horrific to see them. But let's understand this. The rockets and the missiles and the launchers for them are all placed in areas where civilians live, not just to avoid attack on those. They know full well the Israelis have no choice but to attack them. So what is happening is the terrorist organizations want the civilian casualties inside Gaza to get universal condemnation against the Israelis. If they cared about the people and didn't want those casualties, why don't they have bomb shelters all over Gaza like Israel has in their cities? By contrast, they have 9 miles of tunnel network. It's called a city under a city, to move its fighters back and forth and to move its munitions back and forth. But they're not protecting their people. They want the casualties. And our audience has to understand that. As horrific as these casualties are, they are driven largely by the Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad themselves. And that's the real facts of the matter.
This weekend, when I spoke with former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on Sunday Morning Futures, he said that he was not expecting the Abraham Accords to get impacted by this. do you see any uneasiness in terms of those four countries that have agreed to normalize relations with Israel and put together those Abraham Accords? I'm glad you mentioned the Biden administration funding the Palestinian Authority. It's 1 month ago, before this upset happened, that the Biden administration sent aid to the Palestinians. And of course, we know that the president has been talking about getting back in the Iran deal. Does all of this, in your view, jeopardize the Abraham Accords? Real quick, because I've got to move on to Hong Kong.
No, I think Iran wanted to do that, to undermine those accords, but it's not going to happen because it's in the Arab country's national interest to normalize relations with Israel to counter the Iranians. And look at this. This is something I want our audience to understand. The windfall of the 2015 deal to Iran was $140 billion that they received as a result of the nuclear deal. Much of that money went to fund their proxy. So these rockets and missiles that have fallen on Israel likely came out of that deal. And guess what? Right now, today, this week, we're in Vienna. The United States is in Vienna, the Biden administration negotiating with Iran, and on the table is removing the sanctions that the Trump administration imposed for Iran's support of terrorism and removing the sanctions for Iran's manufacturing and development of missiles, all of which is impacting, as we see in this horror. And we're talking about giving them more money. And the result will be predictable. They will use it to destabilize the Middle East.
Well, maybe the Biden administration is watching this and hopefully learning what will likely be the impact of further money and a new partnership. Real quick on Hong Kong. Hong Kong has closed its Taiwan trade office. Another indication that China is running Hong Kong. China has been tightening its grip on Hong Kong, General. And we haven't even mentioned the last time we spoke that the Hong Kong authorities have frozen nearly 500 million Hong Kong dollars in assets belonging to media tycoon Jimmy Lai. So they threw him in jail and they took his money and his assets too, General, as Taiwan trade office is closed in Hong Kong. A real sign of what's going on in Hong Kong this morning.
Yes. The harassment, intimidation of Taiwan is unrelenting. It started when President Tsai was elected in 2016 because she took issue with mainland China. She believes Taiwan is a sovereign state, and she doesn't believe in the one China, two systems policies. And she stated it time again. When she got reelected in 2020, that is when President Xi, he thought she was not going to get reelected. That is when he really began to clamp down on. And we can see that today. This is another manifestation of President Xi's policy to isolate Taiwan and intimidate and harass them.
You wonder if they're going to do to Taiwan what they've done to Hong Kong.
That'll likely bring a war on if they're going to attempt to do something like that.
All right, General, thanks very much. We'll keep that spotlight on that, certainly. We appreciate you joining us, General Jack Keane.